Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Steggy again, back with yet another Disney Lorcana card of the day. Now, today's card of the day is going to be a little special. I didn't do a lot last week. I've been fighting off some allergies. Been pretty bad. And also kind of was hoping we'd see some more cards because I realized that if I was making these, fairly often, I'm going to run out of cards real quick. So that helped to take a little break. We haven't seen anything new quite yet, but I am hoping, we might see some stuff here in the future, but I wanted to make a video. It's been too long. So as you could probably tell, today is a double feature. We're going to be talking about the cat, Cheshire Cat, and we're also going to be talking about Cruella de Vil. Now, I think there's enough to talk about between the two for like one video, but not necessarily, by themselves. I don't think I'd be able to talk that much, but they're very similar in what they do, so I decided just to lump them together because what applies to one almost applies to the other. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk about the cat first, the Cheshire Cat. I like to call him the cat. He is a 3-cost emerald card. He is inkable, which again means you can place him into your inkwell. He has 0 strength, 3 willpower, and he quests for 2 lore. He has 1 ability, and it's called Lose Something. It reads, when this character is challenged and banished, banish the challenging character. He's also an uncommon, which is pretty nice. I thought maybe he'd be more of like a rare because he can quest for 2 lore so early in the game, and his effect is pretty good, but no, he's an uncommon. So that's not too bad. He's also the only character we've seen with 0 strength. Moana has 1 strength, and we have like Mickey Mouse and some other characters with like 1 strength, but he's the only one with 0, which is very interesting. He's a very simple to use character. You don't really have to do much with him. You just kind of quest. Every turn, you quest. I should note that his effect does not work if you're the one doing the challenging. So on your turn, if you challenge into like your opponent's Stitch Rockstar, nothing would happen. You would lose your Cheshire Cat and you would lose the cat, and Stitch wouldn't take any damage, nor would he be banished. Your opponent is going to have to challenge you in order for this effect to go off. But we have a way to do that. We have a way to force our opponent to challenge us, and that is with the keyword Reckless. You can give Reckless to your opponent's characters, and we do have Emerald cards, 2 of them, that do have that effect. I did the Beast is Mine. We talked about that before. The Beast is Mine gives one of your opponent's characters Reckless. I mean, you can give your own character Reckless too, but I don't see how that would work. But we also have the Iago card that was spoiled a couple weeks ago. We don't have the full text, but we know he does something with Reckless. We're pretty sure you exert him, and then he gives a character Reckless, which makes sense because he's kind of an annoying parrot, and he's going to want to be attacked, you know what I mean? If he's turned sideways, your opponent's going to attack him. We do have those ways to give a character Reckless, and if we're questing with just the cat, your opponent is going to have to attack the cat, and then they're going to lose, a character if you play it correctly, right? You have to play it on a character that has 3 or more strength, or Cheshire Cat is going to have some damage on him if you target something with, less than 3 strength. So that's pretty good. It is like a 2-card combo. You kind of can't quest with any other characters that turn. Like if you play the Beast is Mine, you'd have to only quest with the cat, and then your opponent has no choice but to challenge the cat. And that could work. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. You could say put the Beast is Mine on your opponent's Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor, so they can't gain the 4 lore on their next turn, and then you quest with your cat and nothing else. Well, they have to attack the cat unless they have a way to banish the cat through like a removal spell or a bounce effect or something, right? So either way, if they don't have that, then it's not a bad combo, right? He's very simple to use. You just kind of, even if you don't have anything that gives Reckless, you're going to gain 2 lore every turn. By himself, he'll win the game in 10 turns. And that seems like a lot, but that adds up. He's going to gain a lot of lore by himself very quickly until your opponent's like, oh, I gotta figure out a way to get rid of him. And when they do decide to get rid of him, they're probably not going to want to challenge him with one of their bigger characters. They're going to be using their smaller guys on the field. So that's going to take 1 to 2 challenges in order to get rid of him, right? So if they have 2 characters that have, say, 2 strength, each one of them is going to have to challenge the cat in order to get rid of him. But as I said before, if your opponent is challenging, they're not questing. And if they're not questing, then they're not winning, right? It takes a lot of resources for your opponent to remove this card. Best case scenario, it's a 1-for-1. They use a removal spell, or they use some sort of, character challenge, like with 3 or more strength. 1-for-1 trade, best case scenario, but you've probably already quested, so you're already up in resources, right? Pretty solid card. I really like him. It's very simple to use. You just play him and don't have to worry about it. And that's really nice. Maybe you have your other color you're playing is more combo intrusive, or maybe more protection, right? Emerald Steel does have those bodyguards. You could just sit there and quest with your emerald cards while the steel cards are protecting them. Now, moving on, let's talk about Cruella de Vil. She's very, very similar, right? She is also an emerald card, but she costs only 2 resources, and she is also inkable, so she can be placed into your inkwell. She has 1 strength, 3 willpower, and she quests for 1 lore. She has 1 ability, it's called You'll Be Sorry, and that reads, when this character is challenged and banished, you may return chosen character to their player's hand. And she's a rare, so she costs 1 less resource than the cat, and maybe that bumps her up to a rare, as maybe bouncing a card is better than banishing. I'm not sure, but for whatever reason, she's slightly higher in the rarity. Again, a lot of the same effects and combos that apply to the cat also apply to Cruella de Vil. You can give your opponent's characters reckless, force them to attack Cruella de Vil, and then maybe bounce them back to your opponent's hand, so maybe they can't, use their effects or whatnot. She can also be played on your own characters, which is real clever. You'd be able to return characters to your hand that have a really good come into play effect, and that's really good. But again, your opponent's going to have to challenge into her and banish her for that effect to go off. She can come down really, really early on your second turn, and you can just quest with her. You don't have to do anything else. Just like the cat, just turn her sideways every turn and gain some lore, right? I mean, I guess I should also point out that both of these cards make really good targets for songs. You can just exert them and then sing songs like Be Our Guest or Friends on the Other Side or whatever, right? Whatever cards we happen to see, because your opponent isn't going to want to challenge these 2 cards, right? Some sort of detrimental effect is going to happen. At the very least, you can put Cruella de Vil down later in the game, and if your opponent does challenge her and banish her, you can just have your opponent, you choose one of their cards and have your opponent pick that card up. Now they have to spend all their resources, or however they did it, to put that card back into play, so that sets them back a turn, kind of. They can't play really anything else, especially if they played something really big, like a Mickey Mouse, or even like an Aladdin or whatever, right? Something really big. Force them to pick it back up, then they have to spend all those resources again just to put it back into play, sets them back a turn. What I really like about these 2 cards is that you can basically just quest with them and not worry about it. It does take interaction from your opponent, that's true. Your opponent can choose to ignore them, but you're going to steadily be gaining lore, and that's how you win the game. If your opponent chooses to ignore them, that's fine, that's on them, but you're going to be gaining some lore. Especially with the cat, when he quests for 2 lore, that's going to add up very, very quickly, and it's going to take a lot for your opponent to remove that. Cruella de Vil is probably a safer bet to challenge into and banish. What you could do is say quest with all but one of your characters, use that one character then to fight or challenge and banish Cruella de Vil. You gained all your lore for the turn, and then your opponent can say, okay, pick up, X character. You're like, okay, I'll pick them up, but I'm just going to spend the resources to put them back down, and now they're unexerted. It could be possible that Cruella de Vil is actually more beneficial for you as the owner of Cruella de Vil, so you can target your own characters that have really good come into play effects in order for you to regain those. In Emerald Steel, for example, you could target your Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger, to get that come into play effect again and get another copy of your Fire the Cannons. And that's just one simple combo. And maybe that's where her strength is actually going to shine, is targeting your own stuff versus your opponent's. But I can see times where bouncing your opponent's characters are going to be very, very good. Especially, for example, if you're somehow able to bounce one of your opponent's bodyguard characters. That could also work in a multiplayer setting. You can maybe team up with your opponent and be like, hey, on your turn, why don't you challenge my Cruella, and then I'll use her effect on my opponent's Mickey Mouse, Brave Musketeer, I think Musketeer, the steel one, right? Bounce that up, and then that way, on my turn, I can challenge my opponent's characters, etc., etc. So there's some stuff there, right? She definitely has more politics involved in that regard, whereas the cat is just mostly turn sideways and kind of win. Overall, I do like them very well. I think both cards feel really good to play, and they take very little interaction from you as a player. Yes, you could do more stuff with them, but you don't have to, and they do help you win the game, and I do really like that. I think right now they're very solid cards. I'd give both of them a solid 7 out of 10. I do think that both of them have a chance to be a little stronger depending on more cards we see. For example, Cruella de Vil could be better when we have more come into play effects, whereas the cat can be better if we have more effects that give reckless, right, and force your opponent to banish him. It is tough to have your opponent want to challenge your 2 lore character, because you want to gain lore with them, but at the very least something's going to happen if he is banished. So I'm giving both of them a 7 out of 10. I think they're very simple to use. Again, I've said that a few times, but you just quest with them and that's it. If something happens, fantastic. If they're challenged and banished, something's going to happen. Otherwise, just enjoy gaining your lore, and I like that. I think that's great. But hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'm really hoping we'll see some new cards, right? And I think I'm going to start trying to do some card of the day on some new stuff that gets revealed. And I'm also thinking about opening this up. There's a few cards I haven't reviewed yet, and that's on purpose. Might get some special guests or something. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe ask a couple people or so every so often if they'll be like, hey, you want to ramble and talk about a card for 10, 12 minutes or so? We'll see how that goes. But hey, I appreciate you stopping by. It means a lot. You stay safe out there. Fight off those allergies like I've been doing. Make good decisions, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.